Penny, it's good to see you.
Hello.
Maybe we can start with the whole kind of intolerance thing, because I was watching the debate last night and Sadiq Khan said to Boris Johnson, this was Project Hate, not Hope, because it's always been, you know, the slogan for Leave's always been hope against
Absolutely.
fear. And the Nigel Farage poster, of course, on immigration, we've seen that. That probably was the nadir. Were you embarrassed by that, or have you been upset in any way by the way this campaign has gone because it's got so toxic?
I think there have been moments in the campaign. The poster, in the last few days, a colleague in my own party has said some really horrible things about my late friend and colleague, Jo Cox.
Indeed.
But I think we've got to separate those incidents from the Leave campaign and the enormous numbers of people that want a positive vision for their country, that can see all the opportunities that there will come from taking back control over our laws, our borders and our money, and getting the freedoms that we need to thrive, and Europe, the hope it needs to reform. The Prime Minister's words today, I think, are very sad. It's not inward-looking to talk about immigration. Unless you can control immigration, you can't govern. It's not inward-looking to want to trade with Europe, but also the rest of the world. And it's not narrow-minded to believe in democracy and the freedom that underpins it. These are huge issues, and that's why Thursday's vote is so critical.
You mentioned Jo Cox, and I think we're all still reeling from that, to be honest with you. It would have been her 42nd birthday today. And when we do look back on this, I think a lot of people will be ashamed of themselves, the way that they've conducted themselves, don't you?
I don't. If you're talking about the Leave campaign, I do not think that is the case. There have been issues which I think haven't got enough airtime. We've heard about Turkey's accession to the EU. Turkey is one of 5 countries that are on the path to join the EU.
They may not.
No, they definitely are. And we've heard about that in terms of what it means to immigration numbers and security issues. What we haven't heard about is the human rights abuses that are going on in Turkey at the moment. 13 weeks ago, the EU agreed to speed up its process of joining the EU against a backdrop of clamping down on the free press, clamping down on free speech, and some appalling abuses of Syrian refugees, including people being killed, some of which were children. So we haven't heard about that in the campaign.
But if they were within the EU, surely it would be easier to control that sort of thing rather than if they're on the outside. Now, I must ask
if the EU had slowed down their accession in response to those human rights abuses, I'd be on the same page as you, Lorraine. But they haven't. They've speeded it up, and I think that is quite wrong. It shows me that democracy and the things that safeguard it, our free speech, our free press, are not valued by the EU. That's what that tells me. Just as fiscal responsibility wasn't valued when they were trying to get Greece into the euro, it's quite wrong.
You are Minister for Armed Forces, of course. Now, there has been some concern. 13 former heads of both the Army, Navy and the RAF, they've said that our safety will be compromised if we come out, that we won't be as safe. And that surely is something to be really worried about, particularly in your position.
I would say, if you remember what happened after Paris, after Brussels, think about the huge outpouring of solidarity that there was. Masts, flags on masts, flown at half-mast, the tremendous outpouring of assistance. I was sat round the Cobra table at that time. We helped our allies and partners. Our security cooperation is not based on any kind of bureaucracy. It's based on our common humanity, and that will continue just as free trade will continue.
Is that not a bit naive for our common humanity? That's
not.
Probably thinking that everybody thinks the same way as most right-thinking people.
What we're being asked to believe is that unless we have this administration, France and Germany and the UK will cease cooperating to protect our own citizens. That's what we're being asked to believe. I think if we leave, as does the Security Minister, as does the Minister for Human Rights, that we will make some security gains. Key ones being, firstly, we will have full control over our borders. Currently, we have to apply different rules to those coming from inside the EU to those coming from within it. That's quite wrong. If we don't think we've got suspicions about somebody, we shouldn't have to let them in. And the other thing that's really important, especially at a time when all nations are trying to manage their money really well. Every pound we spend on defence and security should count. At the moment, we're spending money on what are in effect baubles for the EU, which wants to be seen as a state. We've got the EU battle group at the moment. They want to create a Euro army. They want to create a Euro intelligence agency. None of those things will add a jot to our security and defence, and it hoovers up resource.
I must ask you, presumably you want to keep Britain together. Presumably, I would think that you would do. Now, it looks like Scotland will vote to stay. If England vote to go and kind of effectively declare independence from Europe, that means that the SNP then have an argument to have another referendum, which could mean the breakup of Britain. That's what we could be looking at.
Well, look, I respect those people in the SNP who want an independent Scotland. I absolutely disagree with them, but I respect their views. And they are going to create arguments, whatever the scenario. We have had a referendum in Scotland. The decision that was taken...
If the Scots decide to stay, you've got a big, big problem if England decide to go.
There will be arguments created, whatever.
But the argument will be created, that will be the biggest argument.
But it's not going to put the situation to bed for the Scottish Nationalist Party. That is what they are there to do. I disagree with them, but that's what they get out of bed in the morning for.
The thing is, we don't know. We will know very soon. Penny, thank you for coming in. I'm sad we've got to leave it there. I could talk to you lots more, but thank you very much indeed. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the people that decide. They've listened to all of the arguments. At times, it has got
whatever you think,
toxic.
vote.
Exactly. You've got to use your vote.